Hang on my head.
Alright.
I'm sure we can.
Is that recording? Hang on.
Alright, have we cut the bottom?
Yeah, it's recording.
Well,
This is the grand unveiling of my new motorcycle. It's getting exciting. So this will be the first time you guys have seen this bike in this colour?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Sweet. Oh my god. I love it. It's amazing how that colour changes.
Yeah.
Like here it's a really nice dark.
Yeah.
And then the other shots I've seen it's really light cream colour. It's just crazy. What colours? Exhaust is all black. Awesome. Awesome. Oh, that's mint.
Here we go.
What do you reckon? Take about 5 minutes to put together?
It won't be long.
How long does it normally take to put something like this?
A couple of hours.
Okay, okay. So
Yeah,
it's not
3
too
hours, but
yeah.
some battery and all. So
Yeah.
get the
This is Mark. For anyone that hasn't met Mark, and this is Jeremy. Jeremy, you're the Indian technician, Royal Enfield technician. What's your official?
all of them.
All of them,
Yeah. Technicians.
And Mark's the sales manager here at Indian Motorcycle in Ballarat. Mark's the guy that hooks me up before my test ride. So yeah, it's awesome. I love it. I love that colour.
It looks good.
Oh, I'm so happy. It's just like, you know, you don't know until you see it.
Yeah.
And I've looked online at different pictures and I think, oh, I hope it's not that light cream colour. You know?
Yeah, no.
But is it a case that when it gets out in the sun it lightens up? Is it?
No, I don't think it will. It'll pretty much stay that colour.
Hey, hang on a minute. This is different.
Yeah, they're different. That's all upgraded now.
Ah, so we don't have that.
No, you don't have the big tow bar on the back.
Ah,
Yeah.
sweet.
You've got a slipper clutch in it instead of normal.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So the one I test rode didn't have a slipper clutch.
No.
There you go.
23's got slipper clutch in
No
it.
backing it in.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, way neater.
Yeah. Because that was the first thing I was going to do is work out what I'm going to do with that.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
Now, if you wanted to,
Can you flip it around?
yeah, if you wanted to muck around with it, you could probably flip that.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of re-drilling some holes in the plate.
Ah,
So
okay.
then you just have to check your tyre.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome. I'm so happy. Now my plan was to ride to a nice sunny location, get some great shots of the bike and some great scenery shots, but Mother Nature is not complying. We've had about 3 days of consistent rain and the rain's just not letting the roads dry out, and if I was to go out and ride in these conditions, 5 minutes down the road and my bike would be filthy, completely ruining any nice shots that I had intended. So rather than wait any longer, here is the new bike. Now, regular viewers of the channel will know that I had two options. It was either going to be the Indian Chief Dark Horse or the Indian Sport Chief. Originally I had ordered the Indian Chief Dark Horse and I thought, yep, this is the perfect bike for me, especially after my test ride. But then they released the Sport Chief, and you know, on paper I kept looking at the Sport Chief and thinking that's probably better value for money, especially with the upside down forks, twin disc front end, Brembo brakes, and the Fox shocks on the rear. My mind kept telling me on paper that was the better motorcycle, but my heart was just on the Chief Dark Horse. That's what my heart kept telling me was my bike. That is my bike. And after making the final decision to get the Chief Dark Horse, I have absolutely no regrets. It is my bike. It's the perfect bike for me. When I first saw the Sport Chief, I thought it's pretty cool, but it's just not me. You know, if I want to ride a sport bike, I would buy a sport bike and probably have a lot more fun on that than a Chief. For me, a Chief is a cruiser. You know, just a big, comfortable, cruising sort of motorcycle. The Dark Horse suits me to a T. So what have I noticed that's different from my 2023 Dark Horse to the 2022 Dark Horse I test rode? Well, there were two immediate things I noticed when the crate was opened. Number one being this little black strip on the front leading edge of the front mudguard, and number two being the revised number plate holder on the rear of the bike. Now, if you remember the 2022 model, it had this really, it was an ugly bracket on the rear guard to hold the rear number plate. I don't know why we have to have a different setup to the UK and to the US. I would much prefer to have it where you guys have it, where it's just down to the left of the mudguard, just down lower next to the wheel. I think it looks great in that location, and that's where I would love to have it. But for some reason, our bureaucrats, our politicians have decided that no, it has to be up on the rear guard in the middle of the bike. So for Australia, we have this mount that's on the back of the bike. Now, it is a better looking mount than what was on the 2022 model, but I think I'm going to try and rejig that number plate so it sits down lower, just below the guard, rather than sitting up high and proud of the guard as it is now. I don't think it'd be too much to just rejig the plate and maybe drill a couple of new holes and mount it down lower. So that's one thing I'm going to change. The other thing I noticed while riding the bike was that the suspension seems firmer than the bike I test rode. Now, everything's stiff and new, so I've got to wear everything in and run everything in. So I'm thinking the suspension should soften up a little over time. The other thing that's changed for me personally, since I test rode the bike 4 months ago, I've lost 18 kilos in weight. So for health reasons and getting the flu and not being able to eat and things like that. And so I reckon that might be affecting the suspension as well. I did measure the rear suspension travel. It went through the manual. It says that the rear shock preload setting should be that from the centre of the top bolt to the centre of the bottom bolt should be about 300 millimetres, or bang on 300 millimetres. And I sat on the bike and my son Tom measured it, and it's pretty well spot on, 300 millimetres. So I know the suspension is set up correctly for my weight. I'm just hoping that it just softens up a little bit over time, which I'm pretty sure it will. It's just everything is just stiff and new. So that's another thing I've noticed since test riding the bike. Now with the bike, I ordered a front screen, the 17.8-inch screen, and a lockable fuel cap. And I left the front screen off because I wanted just to ride it again out in the highway and just see what it was like without a screen. From my test ride, it was a windy day and I had a lot of pressure on my chest and it was a bit uncomfortable, and I thought it would be a bit fatiguing after a while just riding with all that pressure on my chest, because your arms are out wide and you are like a bit of a sail. And after a test ride on the highway again into the wind, it definitely needs a screen just to take a bit of pressure off my body. So I have fitted the screen now. My plan was to ride it for this review video and just see how effective the screen is, but yeah, with the weather being pants, it wasn't going to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'll make a separate video just to give you some feedback on how effective the screen is. Now, I have heard that the screen can cause buffeting, so that's what I'm really interested to see if that's going to be the case. So other than noticing that the suspension is a little bit firmer than I remember, the bike rides as I remember, and I'm very happy with the way the bike performs and rides. Now, I do have to run the bike in. Now, the manual says that from 0 to 145 kilometres on the odometer, not to go past 1/3 throttle. And then from 146 to 485, I think it is, I can start using half throttle. And once it gets over 485 k's in distance, I can start using 3/4 throttle up until 800 kilometres, where it gets its first service. And I did ask Mark what the first service is going to cost, and he says around about $350. So that's interesting, Australian. And then once it's had its first service, then I can start using full throttle. Now, I always do exactly what the manufacturer says I should do when it comes to running in and managing my motorcycle. So I will just follow the instructions and follow the manual and let you know how all that goes. Now, after getting the bike here, what do I love about the motorcycle? Well, the big thing for me is the fit and finish. This bike is beautifully finished, and I really do feel I've bought a premium motorcycle. If you look at the frame, everywhere on the frame that I look, it's just, the welds are perfect. The paint and the powder coating is just so beautifully finished. Same on the tank, same on the guards. And the colour, I just absolutely love this colour. When you see it on the website, on some images it looks really creamy in colour, but it's not like that at all. It's a darker, warm grey, and it's just beautiful to look at in the flesh, and it goes really nice with all the blacked out accents. And I love the performance of the engine. You know, it's just so torquey, just so much fun to ride up to legal speeds, you know, within the legal speed limits. And that's what I wanted. I wanted a bike that I could have fun on, enjoy the acceleration without breaking speed limits and not have to worry about speeding fines. And this bike for me ticks all my boxes. Now, what don't I like? Well, I'm pretty happy with everything on the bike so far. The only two things I don't like are the two things I mentioned earlier. This little black strip across the front of the guard, I don't like that. I wish, if it has to be on there, that they would make it the same colour as the body colour, as the guard colour. So I'm going to see if I can take it off, but if I've got all this glue or something on it, I'll have to look and see what I can do there. So I don't like that. And I still don't like the rear mud guard mount. I just wish we could have it the same as what UK and the US has. I think that's the best looking option. But I will try and see if I can, you know, just jig it around a little bit to make it more palatable to my taste. But having said that, the 2023 version is better than the 2022 setup. It was terrible in my view. Now, the other thing that's changed for 2023 is the 2023 model has a slipper clutch now. I didn't notice a heavy clutch on the 2022 model, but this clutch is nice and light, so that's nice. It wouldn't have been a deal breaker if it didn't have a slipper clutch, but yeah, it's that was a pleasant surprise. Now, what's to come modifications-wise? Well, I want to try the screen and see how that goes. If that relieves a lot of pressure for me and just makes it more comfortable to ride on, that'll be fantastic. The seat I'm finding super comfortable. I found the seat very comfortable on test ride, and the seat is the same for me now, which is great. Now that I have my Indian Chief Dark Horse, what do I plan to do with it? What I want to do is take you guys on my regular rides, my routes that I normally take my bikes on. And they can be a 200 kilometre ride, or it could be a 300 or 400 kilometre ride. So I'd like to take you along and just test out the Chief and just see how far I can push it, how far I can go on this Dark Horse, because that's a bit of an unknown to me. If I can get 300 or 400 Ks in the saddle on a ride, then that's perfect. I'll be very happy. The other thing I noticed too is fuel economy. The bike's doing currently 5.8 litres per 100 kilometres. Now, I know that will, you know, loosen up once the engine loosens up, and the fuel economy should improve, but I'm saying that's probably around about 220 kilometres on a tank at a guess, because I've done 70 kilometres now, and it says I've got 150 k's of range left on the bike, so which is about 220. If I can get it up to about 250, 280, then yeah, I'd be happy with that. But everything's stiff, everything's tight, you know, it has to be bedded in, worn in, so I'm not stressing about that at this stage. Once it's been run in, then I'll know exactly what the figures are and what it's going to do. All right, I think I've banged on long enough. So this is my new motorcycle. I love it. I'm so happy with my decision, so happy with my choice. The Chief Dark Horse is the bike for me, and I have absolutely no regrets that I didn't go after Sport Chief. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. As always, thank you for all your support. And until next time, bye for now. Oh, and here's a couple of videos that you might like to see. Catch you later.